Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. And another heavyweight news and notes mashup video today, starting with Andy Ruiz Jr., Luis Ortiz. So the date, they're apparently going to fight August 13 in Los Angeles. So Ruiz Sr. saying, "My son is going to shut the mouth of the one who dared to call him a coward." Andy is very motivated. He's ready to show the world he belongs to the elite of the heavyweights, and there is no fear of anyone. And Ruiz Sr. confirming to ESPN Knockout the date of that potential fight. Remembering Luis Ortiz, Andy Ruiz Jr., a fight talked about for the past couple of years. Looked like it was going to happen next, and then all of a sudden there was an announcement from Triller that Ruiz Jr. was going to be facing Tyrone Spong. It emerged a day or so after this, and this is a week or two before this video, that Ruiz had also signed to fight Luis Ortiz, and in fact that fight was going to go ahead. So I guess we're just waiting for the announcement now. So I like that fight. Ruiz, I think, is a firm favourite based on what we saw Luis Ortiz versus Charles Martin. Ortiz looking pretty shaky and rocky there, but got himself out of trouble with his power punching. And Ruiz Jr., though, a few questions, dropped and hurt by Chris Arreola in his fight from a year ago, and by the time he gets back in the ring, August 13, it's basically a year and a half since his last fight, so will ring rust also play a factor? Some interesting questions. Some fight result news. So you had the Sons of Legend Carter, Roy Jones Jr. promotion, headlined by Tommy Morrison's son, Kenzie Morrison, so James Mackenzie Morrison, facing Hazeem Rahman Jr., obviously the son of former champion Hazeem Rahman. Pretty wild sort of fight, because for the first round or two, you had Kenzie Morrison just basically coming forward like the Terminator, letting his hands go. No real sort of defense, just looking to stop Hazeem Rahman Jr. But within 2 rounds, he looked like he was starting to gas, gaping mouth, and Hazeem Rahman was looking for counters, ripping body shots. It sort of looked like, okay, once Morrison slows down, Rahman will take over. But it didn't quite eventuate like that, because over the course of the next couple of rounds, you had Morrison slowly making a dent in Hazeem Rahman Jr. And round 5 lands a big right, which rocks Rahman Jr., follows up with a left hook, it drops him, and then the fight ends moments later after he beats a count. Couple of shots come in, an uppercut, and the referee doesn't like what he sees. But Hazeem Rahman didn't look like he was completely out of it. He is incensed, arguing with the referee. So maybe a question if it was stopped a bit early, but after that knockdown, it looked like it was only going one way. So the Sons of Legends event, as it were, Kenzie Morrison gets the win. So it's been a few days since I did a video, just wrapping up different bits and pieces, finished my job that I was currently on. So I didn't get to a couple of Tyson Fury things this week, which I wanted to quickly comment on. So Fury, as we know, he has been saying repeatedly, "I have retired." And I think maybe boxing fans just don't really believe him because it's Tyson Fury. He kind of is the master of misdirection, and it's hard to know what to trust. But he's talked about he wants to see Deontay Wilder get another title shot. Currently Wilder the #1 ranked contender. So if Fury is good to his word, retires, and I'll believe that if he vacates the belt, then Deontay Wilder could be the man, Johnny on the spot. So Fury says, "I'd like to see Deontay Wilder fight whoever for it again." I don't know how that's even possible that Wilder is ranked at #1. He's lost 3 fights in a row and still #1 rated, but that's up to them. One thing, Deontay made 10 title defenses, more than anybody else. He equaled Muhammad Ali's record, beat Vitaly Klitschko's record, doesn't get the credit he deserves, and I do believe he's still the second best heavyweight in the world, Deontay Wilder. I believe he knocks everybody else out but me. Of course, Tyson Fury, being a guy who's just beaten Deontay Wilder a couple of times in a 3-fight series, is going to say that because he wants to say that Wilder's the second best because it elevates him as well compared to his peers, etc. Deontay Wilder, that question about how is he #1? Well, that's a good question. Hasn't won a fight since 2019, but he was a 5-year champion in the WBC, obviously respecting that, keeping him high in their rankings. But if it was to get a title shot off the back of 2 losses, certainly I think people would be asking questions. Does he deserve it? Well, that's up for debate. Could he beat the other best guys in the division? And potentially at the moment, you've got the likes of Ruiz Jr, Joseph Parker, Joyce nipping at his heels in the WBC. I wouldn't mind seeing any of those fights. Meanwhile, Tyson Fury has ruled out ever facing Oleksandr Usyk, saying it's never going to happen because I'm retired. But let's just say I punch him round the ring. Because he's a middleweight, blown up. I've already been the undisputed champion. I won every single belt there is to win. I've got nothing more to do. I'm out, fully done, retired. Okay, first off, the retired thing, still certainly a question, but ruling out completely. Yeah, I mean, that kind of looks a certain way because Usyk's the guy with 3 belts. And if he beats Anthony Joshua in their rematch, there's still going to be a question about, undisputed. There's still going to be a question about legacy because Usyk will be putting another brick in the wall of his legacy. These guys always have more to do. Tyson Fury's beat Deontay Wilder 3 times in recent years, Dillian Whyte. He's got a couple of other very good wins on his record, but the legacy building never stops. And if Usyk becomes undisputed at some point, continues to rack up names, he will start to lodge his claim to be one of the best of the generation. And having the undisputed under his belt, if he was to get there, would certainly add a lot of weight to his case. So I don't think Tyson Fury would ever want to be outdone here by, as he says, a blown-up middleweight. But also the question, because he's talking him down so much, does that indicate he's not really interested in that fight for reasons other than Usyk being a so-called blown-up middleweight? Is it just not a style that he really sort of fancies? Usyk, with his good footwork, his really good fundamentals and speed, certainly would present some challenges for Tyson Fury. But Fury, with the height and the reach, his skills, could certainly put up a very good fight, and I think he would certainly be the favourite going into it. But questions about the whole Usyk thing, and what if Joshua beats Usyk in the rematch? I'm sure Fury would want to come back for that, especially if it was for undisputed. I don't think he could help himself. Dillian Whyte, meanwhile, the beaten title challenger from a week or so ago at the time that we record this video, says he still wants to fight the best. Listen, win, lose or draw, I would love a few more fights against the best guys and then retire. I still want to do the same thing. Nothing has changed. I don't know what Wilder is doing. I just need to come back and I want to fight everyone I lost to again and try to avenge my losses. 100% I can win a world title. Even Fury said it himself. I will be world champion one day. So let's see. And Fury has a vested interest in talking up his beaten opponents because it makes him look better, especially if they go on to do other things. If they get good wins, the win against Whyte looks better in retrospect because the opponent goes on to do something. Joyce is talking up the potential fight with Joseph Parker, which is mooted for July, but I would stress it is not signed yet, it is not official. Even Parker's camp David Higgins has come out in the New Zealand media saying, look, there's no deal, no contract is signed, but we're working on it. But Joyce says, I'm just excited to put on a great show. Joseph's a great fighter. Outside of the top 4, it's the best fight for me. I'm ready and waiting to lace up the gloves, get in the ring and smash him up. It's all exciting now. There's plenty of good heavyweights out there to fight. I'm edging closer to the inner circle. I've just got Joseph Parker to beat. Let's see what happens with these other fights and see if Fury stays in retirement. And for Joyce, this is that breakthrough fight. If he gets it one and then obviously beats Parker, it's his arrival moment onto the world sort of stage. At the moment, he's still knocking on their door. He needs one more win at a certain level to really sort of cement himself as a minted contender, a guy on the rise who deserves a title shot. I don't think people could argue that he wouldn't deserve a title shot if he beats Joseph Parker. Seasoned Australian heavyweight Lucas Browne is talking up the benefits that he's been having from sparring with the rising Australian prospect and also Australian champion Justis Huni. So check out this clip.
It really sort of put a shock into my system about how I haven't been getting the sparring that I needed. This by far is so good. I do 15 rounds of sparring, but I don't do the hard sparring. It's like, 5 rounds here with Justis is a good, hard, competitive sparring compared to 15 rounds with different people. So it shows the things that I have been sort of missing out on.
Browne has also been discussing on his social media an upcoming fight, which he says he has now signed.
I have signed the contract to fight Junior Farr on the Cambosis card down in Melbourne, Marvel Stadium, I believe, June 4. So I'm very excited. I'm currently here in Brisbane. Got a 2-week sparring camp with Justis Huni.
Couple of quick hits. So Thomas Carty, the Irish heavyweight, has posted to social media, locked in fight date soon. No Carty, no party. And as we know, Thomas Carty is a prospect managed by Dillian Whyte. The Wasserman prospect, Matty Harris, has also hinted fight news coming soon, saying, one day I might own one of these. I think he's referring to the watch in this post. Fight news coming soon. DeAndre Savage, the Christopher Lovejoy managed prospect, his May 5th fight has been cancelled. Savage saying, I will not be fighting May 5th because my opponent pulled out of the fight. Shake my head. Fake ass TMT fighter scared to fight me. Why would you take the fight then pull out when we were 7 days away from the fight? They say pressure busts pipes or makes diamonds. Well, Brody couldn't handle that pressure as fight night got close. I will keep you all updated on fight news. I got these boys scared of me. So, yeah, coming through with a bit of that Lovejoy-esque confidence on social media. And Savage, along with the top-ranked prospect Jeremiah Milton, and they've been beefing on social media for some months. They've actually bumped into each other in Las Vegas. So you can see here, and these are clips posted by both guys to their social media. And if that fight happened at some point, I think for me, Milton goes in the favorite, but obviously, haven't seen a terrible amount of DeAndre Savage at this point, and both these guys still early in their career. It's not a beef or anything that's relevant to the heavyweight division at this stage, but it does seem to be personal between these two. So I don't mind seeing it at all. How about you? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.